Today I have chosen to recreate my Plett Lagoon 2021 layout. I've printed out all my notes, which makes it really easy when you're trying to put together your layout. When I first start, I look through my different papers so I can find colors that match nicely with my photos that I would like to work with. This kit is really pretty. It's Uniquely Creative Paper Pack by Ocean Breeze. I find the colors in here are really tranquil and go very nicely with the photos that I would like to use today. For this particular layout, I have just done a white cardstock for my base. You don't end up seeing the cardstock, so if you have another color that you prefer to use, you're more than welcome to, but I generally like to use light colors for the base if they aren't going to be on show. When you are choosing your different paper selections for the layout that you are creating, sometimes I find it easier to actually write the paper names on my notes, so then it makes it easier when you are cutting each individual piece out. You'll see that I have done different colors as my base. You're more than welcome to follow my layout exactly, or you can even double up. If you don't have so many different patterned papers, you don't have to worry at all. You can actually alternate them so you don't have so many different patterns. For now, I'm going to look through my papers and then I will see, depending on what colors I would like to work with, if I've got enough different colors for the base or if I'm also going to double up with some of them. Generally, I do find it's better to not put two very busy patterns next to each other because sometimes that can be a little bit distracting. Often if it's two very bold patterns, it's quite nice to break it with something a little bit plainer in between. For my base, I have used 4 different patterned papers. So I'm going to use those and then I'm just looking for one other pattern to add in between. I can either choose a pattern like that flower, for example, or if I wanted to, I could actually double up with one of those. But I do think the flowers actually look really pretty with my photos and the colors actually pick up very nicely, the flowers here and the flowers there. So I do think I'll add some of that onto my base. What I do feel would look pretty with a sheet like this is if I use it on the far left and then I follow over those flowers onto the far right. So at this stage, you can either write down on your notes which paper you'd be using in which particular location, or you can just cut them out as you go along, whichever you find is easier. After all, this is your layout, so work in a way that you find is easiest for you. Personally, I always use my craft knife. I just find that is easier, but I know a lot of ladies prefer to use their paper trimmer, but it's totally up to you which you think is easier and what works best for you. So the first piece that we are cutting is 9.5 centimeters across. If you would like, you can lay it out so you can just see how your page is looking. Sometimes for me, as I know I'm using this sheet of paper again, I would rather cut out the second piece while I've got it in my hand. And then I've chosen to use that flower section. Which is also 9.5 centimeters across, and the height for all of these are 30.5 or 12 inches. For the second piece that I need to cut would be 10.5 centimeters across. What you can do at this stage is put your different patterns next to it to see if you like the effect. If you would like to put the wood grain next to it, or do you find that one looks nicer, or would you prefer a little bit of a different contrast? I try all the different papers until I find one that I'm happy with. Today I think I'm going to use this circle one. I think it actually gives you a nice contrast in between the two. If you use something like this, I feel it's a little bit too similar, so I'm going to rather use that one. But it's a personal preference, it's your layout, so you can create it however you would like to. Then for my third piece across, I'm going to use this plainer piece again. As I said before, it doesn't always work that well to put two patterns next to each other. It can end up looking a little bit too busy. So I prefer to use this. If you would like, you can actually always cut off the barcode strips before you start. But just keep these sayings because they're actually often really nice to add onto your pages later on. You'll sometimes find they've got quotes, sometimes words, sometimes just a pattern, but they actually do work really nicely on your layout. So that would then be the base of our left-hand side, which I'm really pleased with the color mix. I like how that is looking. Then the piece that I've got left here, we were actually looking for a piece that was 21 centimeters across. This is 20 centimeters. It's up to you, it's 1 centimeter smaller. If you would like to use it, you can. You would then just want to add another small strip in between there, or you could add another small strip into the end. For me, I'm actually going to put a small strip in between there, just because I find these two patterns next to each other are a little bit too similar. So I'd prefer to break it with a different strip in between. It is usually nice to follow through with the same patterns on each side. So my small strip that I'm going to cut out is going to be out of this circle. So just cut a 1 centimeter strip. The only reason I'm doing this is because I've decided to use this piece here, which was 1 centimeter too small. Always line up your paper exactly on the lines, just to make it easier when you cut it. Personally, I love my 40 centimeter ruler as well. We do get ones that are 30 centimeters, but I do find the problem with that is they're actually not the best to work with because our papers are 30.5 centimeters or 12 by 12 inches. I find it's actually not ideal to have a ruler that's the same length as your paper, so I've preferred to go for a longer ruler. So there, we've now created our base. You'll see it's a little bit different to my original template, but that's why the easy to follow PDF templates are so nice, because you can adapt them according to your requirements and the papers that you've chosen to work with. This is a basic guideline that can either be copied exactly, or you can mix and match everything and change it according to your layout needs. Now we are starting to build up the second layer, which is this one here. Keep your page here and then see what papers you feel look nice over it. Bear in mind, with all layouts, your photos need to be the focal point. So I always try and not have very busy patterns right up against my photos. That stripe is really nice. You could do that one over it. I also like the look of that one. As you'll see, I have chosen to work with a collection kit today. Generally, I find it makes your life a lot easier because all of the papers are created to mix and match with each other. So you'll see all the colors go really well with each other, but that's a personal preference. Some ladies like to just work with a variety of different ranges that they might have in their stash. There's no right and wrong. You can work with whatever papers you would like to work with. I think I'm going to use this one, followed by that one, which I'll be putting my photos on. Just remember, when you're putting your layout together again later, I like it that the pattern joins up again. For me, it doesn't look that pleasing if you don't stick it joining together. It can give you a bit of a strange look. So I always prefer to have the patterns matching together like that again. I've then done a very narrow strip along the bottom. I've used paper this time, but washi tape also works really well. So it's up to you if you would like to do paper, or you could even use washi tape. This blue is really pretty, so I'm going to do a combination of the blue and the white for my strip. When you're cutting your paper, you can always bear in mind if you want to just do can have a variety of different patterns. You could either cut a little bit of white on the top, you could cut a little bit of white underneath it, or you could just have turquoise, depending on what look you would like to go for. I think it looks quite nice to have the white and the turquoise, so I'm going to cut it from this section. Put this along the bottom. As you can see, your layout is now starting to come together really nicely. We have now completed the first layer and the second layer.